Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Bedford Township Board of Zoning Appeals for January 6th. I'd like to... Pardon me? Oh. Starting at my right, let's introduce ourselves, please.
Jody Rector, Planning and Zoning.
David Paris, Legal Counsel for Bedford Township.
Trina Ingram, Planning and Zoning.
Pat Mahoney, Planning Commission.
Bob Potter, regular member.
Mike Passenger, Zoning Board member.
Joe Gore, Township Trustee Representative.
Jeff Wilson, BZA alternate.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Well, if Jody would like to do the roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Gore.
Here.
Mr. Potter.
Here.
Mr. Bassinger.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
All present.
Okay, thank you. We have an agenda in front of us. Could I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Support?
Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have an approved agenda. Tonight being the first meeting of the year, we have an election of Board of Zoning Appeals officers for 2025. The officers include the chairman and vice chairman. Would I hear a nomination for the position of chairman?
I'll nominate Mr. Potter for position of chairman.
Mr. Potter will accept that.
Second.
Hearing no further nominations, we'll take a roll. Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Mr. Bassinger.
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Potter.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Next would be a motion for the position of vice chair.
I'll make a motion for vice chair or for Mr. Bassinger for vice chair.
I'll support that.
I'll accept.
Hearing no further nominations, Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Mr. Potter.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Bassinger.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. In our package tonight, we have a list of meeting dates for this year.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The meeting dates have been approved. We just needed to amend on the application for the deadline date. We had Monday, October 13th. However, that is Columbus Day, so we just needed to re-amend it to notate it would be Friday, October 10th, 2025 at noon for the application for the deadline. None of the meetings will actually be changed, just the deadline was, but because it's a notice to the public, we needed to amend it publicly at this meeting. So that's the only change to the meeting agenda.
Right. Do we need to approve that, or it's
Just a
already?
motion to approve the amendment, and it can be a motion carried.
Okay. Would someone like to move to approve the amended meeting schedule per what Jody just told us about, the October 10th?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the amended Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for 2025.
Support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. There you have it. Now we have the minutes of our last meeting, December 2nd. If everybody's had a chance to review those, I would be open for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'd motion to approve. I was there for that one.
Okay, any support?
Support.
Any discussion? No? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're to new business. Make a motion to approve the first item on the agenda under new business, the public hearing regarding Timothy and Stephanie Steinman, reapproval to construct a 40 by 80 accessory building. Do I hear a motion to open?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to open the public hearing with Timothy and Stephanie Steinman.
Okay, second.
Support.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Jody, would you like to read the write-up for that?
Yes. Again, the applicants are Timothy and Stephanie Steinman, 8095 Douglas Road, property 5802-029-00902, 2.586 acres, R2B single-family residential. The applicant is requesting a reapproval of a variance that was granted on September 12, 2022, to construct an accessory building in the front yard in conjunction with the new dwelling on the vacant parcel. The applicant has since built the home and submitted for the building permit for the accessory building. However, the variance has lapsed as construction was not initiated. The subject site consists of approximately 2.586 acres with 195.05 feet of frontage on Douglas Road. Due to the irregularity of the parcel, the applicant built the dwelling on the northwest side of the property and intends to build the 40 by 80 accessory building with a 10 by 56 lean-to the northwest, thus to provide a buffer to the rear of the two parcels with the existing homes on Douglas Road. However, by ordinance, this proposed location is considered a front yard from the section line road. Per section 400-1903, accessory building table, accessory buildings shall not be erected in any minimum side yard setback nor in any front yard, thus requiring the variance to allow the accessory building to be constructed in the front yard. There is a flood zone area located on the front of the parcel on Douglas Road, which runs on the south side of the parcel to the west, then north, and we did include that FEMA map. The applicant has indicated in his submitted letter the proposed accessory building will have no adverse impact on any of the neighboring properties, and due to the irregular shape of the property, flood zone area, close proximity to the neighboring homes, and in his opinion, this is the best location for this structure. At this time, no letters or calls of objection have been received, and should the variance request be granted, the reapproval is a variance to construct the 40 by 80 accessory building with a 10 by 56 lean-to be built in the front yard. And I just wanted to notate that a building permit was submitted, but since the time frame lapsed and no construction commenced on the accessory building, the applicant started on the home and finished the home. And I also wanted to notate that he did decrease the size of the structure and the lean-to on this new submittal as well. But it is still a reapproval of what was approved from the previous application.
Okay. Thank you. The applicant, Timothy and/or Stephanie Steinman, would you like to approach the podium, identify yourself, name and address?
Hi, Tim Steinman, 8095 Douglas Road.
Thank you. Do you have anything in addition to what Ms. Rector?
No, she nailed it.
Okay. Let's see. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to comment on this particular application? Yes.
Do I have to give my name?
Yes, you do. Up here at the podium.
Oh.
I know.
Okay. My name is Karen Rideout. I live across the street from Tim. So I was just wondering, the only other question I had, since Jody already showed me where the barn would be going up, is if there's going to be septic or water lines running to the barn?
Okay, well, that
You have to wait and let, if the board desires to ask the applicant that when he comes back up once the public hearing is closed.
okay.
But you can state your comments and questions to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steinman?
I can answer the question if you want. I have no plans to put bathroom or shower or anything in there. Just an accessory building.
You do have a well and septic for the home?
No, I have city water and city sewer.
Oh, okay, all righty. Do any of the board members have any questions for?
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
We should close the public hearing if there's no further public comment.
Okay, let's do that. I'm open for a,
I move we close the public hearing.
okay, thank you.
Support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Questions?
Do we have to really get that
I
deep
mean, I
in?
remember this one, right? We had all the discussion on how it's an oddly shaped lot, and this was the best place for it, considering the everything around.
Yeah, it
And
seems-
actually, the only thing that's changed is he's wanting to make it smaller. Is that correct?
Cost.
Cost?
Yeah.
I'm sure in 2 years.
Yeah.
Sure, the cost is way
That's
up.
why we didn't proceed the first time, is cost and time frame. I needed a house before I needed a barn.
The overhang will be on the house side?
Yes.
Okay.
We have all the setbacks that Dennis requires away from the property line.
And the practical difficulty before was the unique shape of that lot, I think, as I recall, right?
And dodging floodplain area, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, there's,
It seemed like the commission covered all the bases the first time. I have no problem with reapproving it.
all right. If we're at that point, would somebody care to take a stab at the motion?
I'll take a stab at it, George. George, can you go back up to the top? Keep going, please. Since we can't.
It's me.
What's that?
It's me.
Oh, okay, Jody. Sorry.
It's okay. You want this part?
Right, yeah, right here.
Perfect.
That's what I need. So I'll make the motion that we reapprove the variance requested by Timothy and Stephanie Steinman, 8095 Douglas Road, Lambertville, Michigan, property number 5802-029-00902, variance to reapprove a 40 by 80 accessory building with a 10-foot by 56 lean-to built in the front yard. Practical difficulties would be the unique shape of the lot, which we're accustomed to at the BZA. Seems like that's what we always deal with, and floodplain issues.
I'll second that.
And I'm open to friendly amendments from anybody on the board.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, let's, would you have a roll call vote, please?
Yep. Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Mr. Bassinger.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Potter.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is an appeal by the Miller Family Trust, 8040 Monroe Road, requesting some variances for an accessory building. Would someone like to make a motion to open that public hearing?
I'd motion that we open the public hearing for this.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jody, please.
Yes, again, the applicant is Brian and Carrie Miller, 8040 Monroe Road, parcel number 5802-030000186 on 1.006 acres, R2A single-family residential. The applicant is seeking to construct a 32 by 70 accessory building. The subject site consists of approximately 1.006 acres with 268 feet of frontage on Monroe Road. The applicant's intent is to build an accessory building on the north side of the property. However, due to the existing septic system, there is no other viable location to the rear of the home, and we did provide that plot plan. Per section 419.03 accessory building tables, accessory buildings shall not be erected in any minimum side yard setback nor in any front yard. And due to the proposed height of 17 feet, the accessory building will encroach 5 feet into the required 15 feet side yard where 10 feet is provided, thus requiring a 5-foot side yard setback variance to allow the accessory building to be constructed in the proposed location with the limitation of the lot. The applicant has indicated in his submitted letter the proposed accessory building would be utilized for storage of a trailer, and due to the required overhead door clearance of 10-foot, 12-foot walls are needed, therefore an overall height of 17 feet where 14 feet is permitted. The applicant noted in the height and the roof pitch will provide visual consistency as it will match the existing home's roof line. The applicant noted in his opinion the requested variances will benefit this property and contribute to the visual appealing and functional addition to the property. At this time, 6 letters of objection had been received, and should the variance request be granted, the variance is required a 3-foot height variance and a 5-foot side yard setback variance.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Public hearing is open. The applicant, either Brian and or Carrie Miller, are you in the audience? Would you like to come up to the podium, state your names and address?
Brian Miller, 8040 Monroe Road, Lambertville.
Carrie Miller, 8040 Monroe Road.
Thank you. Do you have anything to comment in addition to what Ms. Rector indicated?
Just looking to build an accessory building to house numerous trailers that I have in my side yard. Trying to get everything under one roof and inside and not have to stare at it. So one of the trailers is a 9'3" in height, total height. So I need to go for a 10-foot garage door to get that in the building. And then with that, talking to a garage door company, they need 18 to 20 inches of room above that 10 foot to accommodate track and motor for an opener. So that's why I'm going for the 12-foot sidewall and then 7-pitch roof line. Just because the house that we built is 7 pitches and 12 pitches, and I just don't think it would look right with like a 4-pitch on it.
Mm-hmm. So
going for the 3-foot in height variance, that's what put me, I need to be 15 feet off the property line. But that encroaches too close to the house for the setbacks that the township requires, or the health department setbacks from the septic field. So if I'm granted the 3 feet, I need to be 5 feet closer to the property line than what they require.
Let's see, this is the public hearing portion. Is there anyone else from the audience that has a comment on this particular application?
If you guys want to
Would like to make a comment?
I'll have you come back up afterwards. You can talk after everyone else has, okay?
Step forward, name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Tony Blakowski. I live at 3472 Shadywood Circle in Lambertville in the Springbrook subdivision, and I've lived there for the past 35 years, as well as many of the other residents who have responded to the variance request. It is a shame that as property owners who have lived adjacent to the Miller property for 15 to 35 years and have all enjoyed a beautiful setting with trees, green grass, and tranquility, will now have to look at an unpleasant, unsightly farm utility structure that will be elevated at an intrusive height and close to our property lines, taking away from the charm and appeal of our area and affecting our property value. The Millers deserve to make this area their home as well, but not at the expense of the beauty, charm, and investment that we have worked hard to achieve, enjoy, and maintain for so many years. We all take pride in our homes and are considerate and respectful of each other. By putting up a pole barn, the Millers are showing they have no regard or respect for the community or for the neighbors they are so fortunate to have. It is insensitive, poor planning, and a lack of good judgment on their part. In closing, I hope the board will take the concerns of the residents seriously tonight, and as a good neighbor is making choices that not only affect themselves, but how other neighbors will be impacted by the decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Is there anyone else?
My name is Gary Blakowski. I live at 3472 Shadywood, adjacent to the Miller's property. I've been an officer of the Springbrook HOA for 30 years. I'm here tonight not only in opposition of the variance request on the proposed construction, but any farm utility building at 8040 Monroe Road. In 2020, Paul and Linda Cruiser of Deepwood wanted to place a farm utility building on their Deepwood property that had frontage on Monroe Road. Several Springbrook residents and the Sousers on the Monroe Road were against this pole barn. 4 officers tried reasoning with the Cruisers to build something that would be more appropriate for the residents' settings, such as a 3-car garage. However, they went ahead and built their pole barn anyway. Sadly, Mr. Cruiser passed away 1 month later, and now the neighbors have to look at this eyesore. The last thing we need in this area is another farm utility building that will be larger than the one that is already on Monroe Road, surrounded by Decker homes valued at $400,000. This would have negative impact on the property value and the resale of homes in Springbrook. The residents affected most by this proposal farm utility building are the Prelips, who will be less than 50 feet from the structure. I will also have to look at this structure from my great room in my backyard. A 3-car garage with the same siding and roof shingles that match the Miller's new home would be better suited for the area. What can the township do to change the restrictions of allowing such unsightly building in residential settings within Bedford Township in the future? Notices were sent to residents within 300 feet affected by this variance. Several homeowners are against any farm building on this property because it will spoil the beauty and appeal of the area. The Millers built their dream home just like we did. Why would they want to ruin this dream home with their building that will be oversized and out of proportion to their own home as well as the surrounding homes? Is a construction business with numerous utility trailers and vehicles allowed to operate out of a residential home in Bedford? I assume the purpose of the structure is to store commercial construction equipment in it. Item number 9 of the Township General Provisions, Article 19, regarding accessory buildings states, no accessory building may be erected and or used in residential district and use other than those use allowed in the residential zoning district in which accessory buildings exist. In no case shall an accessory building in a residential zoning district be used for business and or commercial operations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or?
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, could you please come forward?
Yeah, hi, Chad Prelip, 8066 Monroe Road, next door neighbors to the Millers.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to come up and state our opinion. We've had a lot of changes in the neighborhood, as you've heard. A lot of things that seem appealing and other things that we don't agree with. Just wanted to state our opinion is that we don't necessarily agree with the variance request. As Mr. Blachowski indicated, it seems to be more in support of a construction business, as we've seen a lot of changes that we've been very lenient about. We haven't, we've had a very good relationship with the Millers, and I just thought that it was just fair to at least state our opinion, being the neighbors. The building seems excessive, maybe poorly planned, but at the same time, I understand, anybody would understand the need to want to build a building to support your business. But in this particular case, I can't, complain about somebody building a building within the laws. I just don't support the additional request for the variance. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Once you close.
We'll close the public hearing first, and then.
I'll move to
ask you
close the
come
public
back.
hearing.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed. If the Millers would like to come back up. Give you a chance to respond to what we heard from the audience.
Yeah, so I guess in general, we read through all the letters. There's a good amount of misinformation in there. One of the biggest things that I heard tonight is about it being a farm building. It's never been a farm building. It's not even a pole barn building. It's going to be stick built. It's always been the plan. The materials being used, our intent has always been for them to match the materials used on the house, which again has always been the plan, but the misinformation that's been spread, tends to travel like wildfire. So I guess their interpretation of what a farm building, a pole barn is different than what we intend to build to match our house. So that's, I guess, one of the biggest misconceptions that's been talked about this evening.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I want the board to know that what was provided for the application is this page here. And so when a few of the residents came in, this was shown to them. It doesn't say what it's going to be. So the size of it, the height of it, the interpretation is, I can't define what this is, and there were no other aesthetics submitted with the application. Normally that comes with the building permit. So I just wanted to clarify that maybe not misinformation, but by looking at the picture, can't tell if it's siding or if it's just metal. I just wanted to give you clarification.
Yeah, usually metal pole barns have vertical siding, I guess, from what I've seen. If you look at that in comparison to our drawings that were submitted for our house building, it's the identical materials. We were asked to submit a sketch. This was our sketch to the best of our drawing capabilities, which I feel like was pretty good.
And I'm not saying
yeah,
it wasn't.
no, I understand.
I'm just saying that this is what the residents
Had we been asked to call out
without
materials, we
clarification.
certainly could have done that. But yeah, you can tell it's definitely meant to fit in with the home and the neighborhood as best as possible. It's shorter than our home is currently. It's shorter than the neighbor's home. And that's with the height variance. The other thing that I guess I just wanted to note that if we built to the township's current requirements, we actually can be 5 feet closer to the property line. We only have to be 5 feet off. We're requesting 10 feet off and just the taller pitch, which, as you can see, I have a little bit of drawing experience, so I went ahead and drew the elevation of if it were to be at the shorter pitch and doing a bigger size barn, because this actually isn't.
We didn't submit that. Right?
We didn't submit it. It was just something we did on our own, just kind of like thinking this through. So I can just show everybody, so it's fair that everybody can see. Like basically I overlaid, like this is what we're looking to do. This is what we could do within the confines of the township's current requirements. So this is the net difference, and it works out to about 26 square feet difference in elevation view. So it was just something that I wanted to do for my own self to understand, like, what are we really talking here? Like, is it really that big of a difference? And in that sense, it would be 5 feet closer to our neighbors. We're actually trying not to put it right on top of them and put it 10 feet off the line instead of 5. But I understand, that there's some opinions about that. We've been very upfront with these neighbors from the beginning about our intents from the second we bought the property, when we walked the property, when we secured the property. Like, the whole reason was, okay, this meets the need of being able to put something to store all of his trailers, our trailers, and our home on it. That was why we bought it to begin with, There's not a lot of property like that in Bedford that's not owned by builders or already owned by private homeowners to even be able to do that. And we did build this home ourselves, so that creates some tricky things when you want to build something yourself and you don't have to work with a specific builder, trying to find a property that even accommodates that. So we felt like this was finally the property that accomplished that. So I'm sure you have some other things to add, but those are just a couple that I wanted to touch on.
Just to clarify all the business talk on it, I am a self-employed carpenter, so therefore I do have a job trailer that houses all my equipment. And I've got more than one because I do different aspects of construction. This is simply a building to put all those trailers in, to keep them out of sight, out of view, help decrease my chances of being broke into. Not that they can't break into a dwelling, but at least keep my trailers secure, weather tight. I don't plan and have no plan to do any type of construction in the barn and haul it somewhere. Pretty much everything I do is done in somebody's house. Material gets delivered out to their house. It doesn't get delivered to my house. I don't have potential customers meet at my house to have meetings and show them anything, or no business activity takes place in my house besides pulling my personal vehicle in with one of my work trailers. That's the only business that takes place at my house, is storing trailers.
And some of the letters did address the unsightly trailers. We understand that. That's the whole purpose of the barn, is to get them contained. But they don't want to look at the barn, but they also don't want to look at the trailers. So it's like, what do you do there? You know, we're kind of feel like we're stuck on that. We can't make everybody happy. So
this was not my first attempt. It was just to come in and put a building up. I rent 2 storage units at a local storage unit that was just sold, and they almost doubled the rent overnight. I rent another barn up in Samaria, just a portion of it. So my monthly expenses are growing just in renting space, and I can't even put trailers in. None of the 3 storage units in the Bedford area have buildings big enough to house a couple of my trailers, let alone everything into one unit. There's waiting lists at all of them, even to get another unit. And I've went beyond that, and I've contacted 4 different property owners in Bedford that have large barns that, from my opinion, driving by, I don't see activity there. I don't think they're being used. I've contacted 4
that actually
different
includes
people.
the one that they are complaining about down the road that they're stuck looking at. We actually approached that owner pretty early on, and she had no interest in letting it, which is her right, but had no interest in letting anybody, rent it out. So we've explored multiple avenues.
Mm-hmm. Any of the board members have a question they'd like to bring up?
I've got a couple here.
Okay, Joe.
So aesthetically, you want to make it attractive and look like the house, correct?
Yeah, the exact same stone, the exact same siding, down to the exact same lighting fixtures, the same louver. The biggest variance might be the garage door, because I don't think they make the specific doors that we have on the home in that size door. So we'd have to find something similar.
So aesthetically,
which is a wood grain door.
If it doesn't get approved here, they have an opportunity to look at something aesthetically correct, or you could legally, without any request or variance.
Correct. We can put a pole barn up
You
that's
can put
bigger
an
than
eyesore
this.
up. If they want to see an eyesore,
Yes.
you can put an
We can
eyesore
put it
up.
5 feet off the property line. Yes, we're trying to do what we can to make it as aesthetically pleasing. I know everybody doesn't like it,
And if
but,
this goes down,
yeah.
they don't like seeing trailers.
And people here have outbuildings on their property as well that we didn't get any say in either, so. I don't know, I guess it's the nature of coming last to the property. They were all used to an empty lot for 20 plus years and want it to be that way forever, but I don't know.
Mr. Wilson.
Anyone else?
Yeah. So Springbrook subdivision has no jurisdiction on these lots. This isn't part
do
of
not.
that. So
We're
their
not
deed
part of an
restrictions
HOA.
don't cover these lots whatsoever. Do you have city water at your house now?
Yes, we do.
We have city water on
Just
a
don't have sanitary sewer.
Correct.
Before,
So realistically, because of our ordinances and that, you could build this size of a building. The problem is the height. Because of the height, now you have to be further away from the property line.
Correct.
Did you consider using like a scissor truss instead of a flat truss? Which would give you the height inside.
I did look at that, but expense, I mean, going to a scissor truss, the expense over a standard truss, it accumulates.
And it changes how things can be stored inside because of those.
Not the scissor truss, but we did look into a different type of building that's more of a, I don't know how familiar you are with construction. It's like a steel I-beam type structure, but this is a wood box beam. But the problem with that is from the exterior of the building, it comes in like 12 to 16 inches on each side. And I was just looking to lose the 6 inches in standard stick frame wall to hold the roof up versus losing. If I lose the space on the interior, that means I need to make the building bigger in order to try and accommodate my 4 trailers wide against the back wall.
We've laid out all the trailers inside the drawing as well, how they'll each fit in. We've tried to do our max amount of homework on this as possible, so.
I guess, the difficulty I have in my mind with it is every time we give a variance, it seems like on a pole building and stuff, we put a stipulation in there that it can't be used for commercial type purposes. And it sounds like realistically, I mean, I understand that you use these for work, but you are using it for a commercial type purpose.
Well, it's also storing our boat trailer, like personal items as well. But yes, his daily driver, but I guess that's no different than the neighbor having his railroad truck parked next to us on the driveway every day. He has to use that to go to work to do his job. That's no different than him having to use his work trailer to go to work and do his job. No business is getting conducted in the barn.
The fact that you're making it match the house. I mean, I think your house looks beautiful, and
Thank you.
It makes sense to put a building next to it that looks nice versus a pole barn building. I guess and I understand the people that live in Springbrook, what their problem is with it, because it does, it's a big building. But then again, you could build a bigger house on that piece of property too. The only thing I question though would be because it is a septic system that, from my memory, is when you put in a septic system, you always have to have an alternative space to replace that septic system.
Yeah,
You build this barn, are you going to have that space?
the right side yard is the alternate location. To the right of the house,
Right where your
yes.
cursor's at.
Yeah.
It's a funky layout, but yes.
Those lots have been there for a long time.
I mean, the septic
for sale for a
layout
long
over
time.
there.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of the other unique part is it's somewhat of a pie shape with kind of the back clipped off. We have a lot of frontage that's actually in Monroe Road that's considered part of our 1.06 acres. It does not show well on that drawing, which I think is something you guys provided, but the actual survey drawing, which is there, you can kind of see the survey points actually go past the curvature of the road onto what you would actually think is the neighbor across the street's yard.
Right.
But that actually surveys out as part of our property. So it gets eaten up pretty fast when literally all of Monroe Road is across the front, the widest part of the road.
When did you buy the property?
December of '22, I believe it was.
Did you know it was residentially zoned then?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
We feel like we're using it residentially. I mean, I don't think we're not.
I mean, what I read in your letter was that you were going to use this for business operations, and our ordinance doesn't allow you to use it for business operations.
I guess, what do you define an operation? Because it's the vehicles and trailers that he uses for business, but he's not having customers come there. Meetings don't take place there. It's not an office in
He says
there.
it's to accommodate several work trailers that are
Correct.
critical for my business operations.
Correct, yeah, and
You're not
other
allowed to do
personal
that
things.
there,
Why can you not?
because the ordinance says you can't. It's a residential area.
Isn't it, or is it that's what I was.
So lawn companies that keep their trailers at their house, which happens all over the
businesses all
town.
over
You
this
just can't
township
conduct
that-
business,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
We're not creating a variance for every one of those people, though, and you're asking for one. And us granting a variance would be us aiding and abetting you violating the ordinance. That's pretty clear.
But isn't so
I
if
don't
they were to build it,
understand.
but I was thinking about that too, but if they today could build a building that's 2,500 square feet, right? And store things in it, and we have no say, zero. But then if there is an issue with the business purpose, that's a ordinance issue, right? If somebody finds that they're or, building cabinets in there, or selling them out of there, or having meetings for that, that's not an us issue with a 2,500 square foot building, right? They can build a 2,500 square foot purple tin building on that property today, 5 feet off the property line.
We're creating a nonconformity.
No.
We are, if we grant this.
No, we're not.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair? I think the attorney would like to say something.
If I may just make some comments here. Obviously, in the letters of opposition, there's been some concerns about enterprises or commercial uses coming out of this variance request. And if this accessory building on a residential lot is aiding or promoting those enterprises, we're lending it to a land use variance issue. And I would just like to remind that this board doesn't have the legal authority to approve or meddle in a land use variation.
So it would be, if we were to, like a lot of the other ones that we've looked at or approved, it would be, a variance on the size or the shape of the building would be contingent on we would not be approving. We would say that it could not be used for commercial purposes, like we do on all the others, right?
Correct. And keep in mind, commercial purposes are not maybe so much the use in the building. Do you have employees coming to the site to pick up the trailers? Are we meeting as a company on the site? No. That's when it lends it to take it away from the commercial type use where it is in a residential district. So that is the concern of when you say no commercial use, if you have employees coming to your house. Home occupations we allow, but they're within the home, not in an accessory building. So commercial use is on a commercial site. So I just want to clarify that it's not saying that their own personal trailers and that can be stored in there. And if he's using a trailer for work, but if you're having employees come pick up trailers to go to a job site, that is a commercial business out of the accessory building.
Right. So then that would be, so just whatever we approve or disapprove or don't approve, whatever they do, that if say we did approve something, it's contingent on no commercial use.
The ordinance doesn't allow it. Even if you don't make action on this and you deny the request or you approve the request, the ordinance says no commercial activity can be in a residential district. Keep that in mind. You are correct, Jeff. It will become an enforcement issue. If their neighbors call, the ordinance enforcement will go out. If it is determined there is commercial activity, then it will proceed then to our legal counsel, which will then in turn be costly to the township if they determine to move forward with commercial business activity. Whether you make a decision in or not, if it becomes a complaint of enforcement, there will be steps that will be taken through the enforcement process.
Right.
And to be clear, it's whether they keep inside a building or outside in the parking lot.
Correct.
But they're allowed to store that type of thing in the building, right? You're allowed to pull today.
That's what I said. I'm not saying they can't put their trailers in there. It's when it becomes a commercial activity on the residential property is when the enforcement would be an issue. And the attorney spoke on that was what was addressed in some of the letters. And I think one of the neighbors actually voiced that concern.
Right. Meetings, transactions, employees.
Employees are not permitted. Right. It becomes a commercial site where you would go and pick up trailers, load them, take them to a commercial site. You wouldn't know even if he stores the materials in there, that's when it's commercial activity. It's not lended to a residential. I know we have them elsewhere. We are complaint-based, keep that in mind. But regardless, whether they build the building and comply with the ordinance, if there is a complaint by enforcement, then the proceedings will go by the enforcement of a letter and then court proceedings because the activity is in a residential. Doesn't matter if you add it to the motion or not, it is within the ordinance.
Okay.
So to clarify for myself, if the applicant uses a building for storage of his or her commercial equipment, meaning the trailer that they use, that they move off-site onto another person's site and use it during construction activity, and at the end of the day, they bring it home and put it in the barn. That's okay.
I'm not going to say commercial. If it's a
Trailer
commercial
with
vehicle
scaffolding on
trailer used for their personal business, it would not be permitted in a residential district. And I will let the legal counsel address that as well.
You know, whenever
Your personal trailer that stores your golf cart, your snowmobiles, your lawnmowers, those types of things that you move, say, from property to property that you own, your own personal vehicles. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't know if they're commercial trailers or not. They're their personal trailers. I'm just clarifying that if it's used for commercial purposes, it would not be permitted in residential.
What I noticed, when I originally read through it all, was in their letter to the township, the last paragraph, it said to meet their specific needs for business storage. And so for me,
That's the
red flag.
trigger on the height, yes.
I know we have an ordinance, because I went through this myself 35 years ago. I was kind of forced to leave Bedford Township because I was running a business through my house. Anyway, but they can still build this building. You can build this building, and your options are is you do the scissor trusses, you put it 2 feet in the ground, or you build it to what's allowed on the property. But for us to approve this, I kind of agree. That would be setting a bad precedent, because every one of these we approve, we say no commercial use.
Yeah, but
because we have an ordinance for that.
We don't care about commercial use here, right? I mean, it's not ours to talk about.
You normally put it in your conditions that no commercial
our
activity,
conditions.
but it is within the ordinance.
Right.
It
It's already
is,
there in the ordinance.
Yeah.
it is in the accessory building table that
That's just,
says no.
whatever they decide to build, they just need to understand that in a residential lot in Bedford.
That
If they
they,
build a 3-car garage, if they build a 2,500 square foot pole barn that's 10 feet
commercial
tall.
activity is not permitted.
So that's a completely different subject. They could still, today, pull a building permit, walk out of here, pull a building permit for a 2,500 square foot tin building and put it 5 feet off the property line.
Well, they should present a practical difficulty.
No, but they don't need to do. They
don't need it. There's no variance.
They can go get a building permit today.
They're requesting a variance.
Right. Understood. But what I think my point or my thought in all of it is, and regardless if I would like it by my house or not, a 2,500 square foot building can be built on that lot, no matter what anybody says right now. It can be 5 feet off the property line. And it can look like, as long as it's
14 feet in height.
14 feet in height.
So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what's
Yes,
driving
yes,
the
yes.
request.
I 100%
is their
agree, but
business
if I-
trailers to increase the height.
But what my logic is, you can do that, right? 14 feet in height, 2,500 square foot. It can be a vertical siding, white building with a green roof today. Building permit, no variance.
Correct.
So my thought is, on that lot, if the applicants are willing to maybe do something that matches closer, puts a pitch on the roof, has brick on the front, looks like the house, it's better than the potential alternative, right? It's
Aesthetically, I don't think that's the concern. I think it's the height for the neighbors and the use that they're proposing. Whatever they choose to put on their property is going to be aesthetically to their use of their home and their property. If they choose to put up the stick building and make it aesthetically appealing to their home, or they put up, that's why the township does not restrict whether it's a pole barn or a detached garage. It's your personal preference. The request, though, from the neighbors that are opposing the request is due to the height of it, due to the commercial activity.
But I think out of the, how many letters, how many of them mentioned the height? I think very few. Most of them mentioned aesthetic reasons that were mostly false.
But I'm saying that your letter request and you voiced that concern that your height is due to one of the trailers. I don't know
Correct.
about the commercial activity. I'm going by what has been presented tonight. So that's the determination you'll have to make. So that's where the request is. If you choose to grant the request, they could still change their mind and put up a metal pole barn, even if you grant the variance, if you don't put conditions on it, if you were desired to grant it. So keep that in mind. If that's your desire to say, well, they're going to put up this building, if you grant the variance, those should be conditions, because just because this is what's presented, it's not what's submitted with the building permit. So keep that in mind.
I think that's that's my thought, that the public needs to understand that there can be a building in that area that can be larger than what they're presenting. The only difference is the height.
Not only larger, they can make it bright pink.
Right.
That's
the thing. There's nothing that's going to stop.
We can have a say about the appearance of the building. You can't make it break paper.
but it
We'd
can
be
be- but
silly
it
to
can
let
be-
them do
Why,
that.
why, if they're building something without variance, why can't they make it break?
It has to go with the neighborhood.
It
Where's
doesn't.
that
It's
at?
not in an HOA,
It's
though.
not in, they're not in an HOA.
That's a lot in Bedford.
That's,
can do what they
that's what I
want.
think people need to understand maybe is that, you know, regardless of what you like or don't like, I mean, a 2,500 square foot building will fit on that lot 5 feet off the property line.
I think anybody who buys a home, a $300,000 home, $200,000 home in a residential area has a reasonable expectation that their neighbors are going to keep their homes up.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, that, but.
And aren't going to paint their houses pink.
No, but I'm just trying to say that there's not, like, say that we don't approve anything. That's not going to stop a building being put there.
I just don't understand, if you knew you had all this equipment and you bought a home in a corner lot in a residential area, that you thought you could just store it there and nobody would complain or there would be an issue with it.
There's barns all up and down Monroe Road. We had no reason to believe that we couldn't put it there. The township says we can put it there.
You can put a 20.
Running a commercial operation.
But we're not running an operation out of the building.
He said he is in his letter.
No, he's storing trailers that are also used for his
Call it
business.
critical for my business operations.
Right, because he takes that trailer to work, just like this neighbor takes his railroad truck to work.
Yeah,
But
I have a neighbor-
employees don't come, there's no customers that come, there's no business dealings at the house. That would be running a business, I would
I
think.
have a
but-
neighbor who works for an elevator company. He parks his truck out in the street. I understand that. He's got a job. That's his job. He gets in the truck in the morning, goes somewhere, fixes.
And that's exactly the scenario we're discussing.
Except he's got multiple trailers, large trailers. One that requires a variance to build a roof to accommodate it.
Yeah, it's an enclosed trailer. They're kind of tall. I mean, it's not like an absurd trailer you wouldn't see on the road every day, though.
Well, I mean, when I drove by the property the other day, there were, 4 trailers in the parking lot?
Probably, yeah. That's
I mean,
exactly
they're
why
there
we're trying to
most of the
enclose
time.
them when they're not out.
Yeah.
When you're not, when
I
you're
can
working.
recall-
Then when they're not in use, yeah.
I have one vehicle, she has one vehicle.
So the other
She
ones
has a job,
sit there while you're
I have
working.
one vehicle to pull one trailer at a time.
I mean, I worked with builders for 20 years, and I guess it never stunned me to know that a lot of these guys, just deck builders, that they have a place that they rent to keep all the equipment. They don't keep it at their house.
Well, we've kind of discussed,
I've
we've
gone down
gone
that
through those
road and-
avenues.
One other thing that the township does not allow is for you to buy a property and put a building up on it.
No, you are allowed to.
They're not.
That's what he was saying. You can. You just can't
just-
build it higher than what's allowed.
No, but you can't do it without having a house on
it.
it. You have to have a house
Right.
there. You can't just build a barn on a vacant piece of land.
Right, of
I can't go buy an off-site piece of property that's 3 acres and put up a 4,000 square foot building to house everything without there being a house on it.
And we can't grant a variance. It has to do with the property, not your personal situation. That's the only way we can grant a variance, is if it has something to do specifically with the property.
We just approved one that was based on the property. I mean, right? It's, we
It has to
approved.
be solely about the property,
Well, that
only
is
about the.
right? It's an oddly shaped property with septic in the way, like the one and they all have to stand on their own merit, right? We can't say because of this one, that one. But, I mean, it's the same, we don't, they have to stand on their own merit, but we've considered several of these things with several approvals for height or footprint based on the shape of a lot or the electrical or the septic. I mean, it's.
Well, the shape of the lot has nothing to do with how high he wants to build a building. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
Then if you build it within the required height.
Well, the shape of the lot does, because if we had an additional 5 feet to go inward, we would be okay with the height we're trying to do.
Correct. If it was rectangular or square versus pie shape.
Right.
I think our legal counsel has.
Yeah, so, Board Member Wilson, you're absolutely right. There are parameters for accessory buildings to be built on residential properties right now. What the difference here is that the petitioners are requesting a variance for this accessory building to satisfy commercial needs potentially. And that's discussed in these letters of opposition. It's discussed in the request itself. And that lends a land use variance issue.
So whether this gets approved or not, you still can't have trailers there.
You should have said it was for personal use.
Some of them are for personal use, so.
Live and learn.
And the other part about the letters, one of them cites that it could cause an accident. I mean, are we taking every letter and all that information as fact? There's so much mistruth in some of the letters that, I don't know, some of those people we've never even met, and somehow they know all these details about this proposed building. Much of it's completely untrue, like you just heard about it being supposedly a pole barn with metal siding, a metal roof. That's literally never been discussed, but, I mean, they can put anything they want in the letter and no one's gonna fact check it, right?
Like Mr. Wilson said, if this doesn't happen, build a 2,500 square foot pole barn and put it 5 feet from the property line.
Yep, I guess so.
And don't ma-
Realistically, you could do a shorter pitch on it, to take care of your height problem, too, but it's not
Correct.
aesthetically.
Right, it'll look worse, but,
Exactly right. I've always, in my houses, I've always had barns that match my house, the roof pitches match the house. So, if it were me personally and I lived in Springbrook, I would rather look at that building you're gonna build than a bunch of trailers sitting in the yard. That's me personally, because I like things neat and put away, and I don't like stuff in the yard. But, with this, you kind of opened up a can of worms when you pitched my diesel storage. Oh, I'm sorry. Because we know that, you can't have a business running out of residential property in Bedford, supposedly. I don't know. I only see a couple options. Scissor truss this 2 feet in the ground or buy a shorter trailer.
Myself, based on what we've done in the past, and to your point, the same thing about the pitch and what you'd prefer to see, lesser of evils. I, as a neighbor, if I didn't want to see that, I would rather not. I would prefer a building that was, 5 feet farther away from my property, maybe a bit taller, but aesthetically pleasing, rather than something that's closer and a vertical siding shed roof. That was my logic. My thought would be to, I'm not necessarily putting it out of motion right now, would be to approve the variance based on the practical difficulty. I'm just saying this, not trying to put it out there. The practical difficulty being the odd shape of the lot and the proximity to the septic field, and that it be contingent on or just that we note that it is not to be used for commercial purposes, and because that's known anyway, right? And you leave that to the ordinance. Because we've done, stating for personal use would be much cleaner in the letter, but that's not for me to say. We all know that that's not allowed. Commercial use isn't allowed. So we just have to,
I guess to add to that, I would agree with something like that, is if we could put in there something that it has to match the house, because, obviously if you build it to match the house, the value of that building your property and your properties will help be,
it's better than
sustain it if you
better
build
than the alternative.
Exactly.
That building is going to look better and be worth more
Yep.
than and cause, say, less issue or disruption with other homeowners than one that's potentially a larger footprint that's got vertical siding and a shed roof.
There's going to be a building there, correct?
That's what I think needs to be understood.
We've talked about that from day one with the neighbors here. They've known about it for over a year. So it's not.
I feel bad for the neighbors who have to see the business operations going on there, and they shouldn't have to.
What business operations are they seeing? A trailer leave?
Excuse me. And you're putting them in a position where they have to keep an eye on it. They have to see it, and it's not fair to them. That's the way I see it.
I don't feel
You had an option to buy the house or not buy it, or buy one that was more suitable for what you need for work. And it was recent. I see your whole practical difficulty man-made or self-made from that perspective. It's a beautiful home. I appreciate that you want to design this so it matches the house. There's a lot of people that don't, they go the cheapest route.
Yeah, you can drive into a road and see a lot of blight examples. I don't think this would be one of them, but.
Did you build your
to
house?
each his own.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
It is just gorgeous.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If the board doesn't have any more discussions, maybe we should look for a motion.
I'd motion to approve. And the reason, so I guess I'd start it. If you can go up to the top, Jody, please. Okay. So I'd motion to approve the requested variance for the Miller Family Trust at property number 5802-030-001-86 as stated for the 5-foot setback variance and the 3-foot plus or minus height variance, with the practical difficulty being the odd shape of the lot and the proximity to the septic field that prevents it from being moved 5 feet closer to the house. And with the, I guess we've noted it in several others, just again with the, is it an amendment or a note that it, it can't be used for commercial use and subject to the ordinance, right?
I'm just looking over. You covered the no business use. Mr. Wilson, you covered no business in your motion, correct?
I did.
Okay. I also had written down to move unsightly trailers indoors into an aesthetically looking building. So I would support that.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
I just said to move some unsightly trailers that neighbors are complaining about, moving them indoors so they don't have to look at the unsightly trailers.
Is that the part of the, them doing that is, I guess, within the ordinance, right? But that's part of the, say, if you'd say appeal to it is to
Yeah, the aesthetics.
Yeah.
The aesthetics.
I mean, if we're talking about ordinance stuff, I mean, ordinance say you can have trailers sitting out. So I guess if we're not getting into ordinances in terms of business use or not business use and what exactly that means, why are we now getting into ordinance with the trailers?
I think you just meant that it's a benefit, right? Like we were saying, it's a benefit of having the building.
It's a benefit
be
of
able to
having
remove them from the property.
Okay.
To get them inside. Just to,
They
one
must
of the
be stored inside and they
Yeah.
cannot be stored outside. You
Part
would
of the-
have to have the trailers for the variance to be approved. All the trailers would have to be stored indoors in the trailer.
Well, no,
Or you would
we
be in
can't.
violation of the
No,
variance.
we can't do that. I think what he was saying, I think what he was stating was more, it's part of the appeal. It's part of the good.
Yeah,
Part of the
If they
reasoning.
park
It's
them
not a-
outside, then it's not the appeal if they're not parked indoors. So that's, you have to give clarification then, because if you say they must be indoors, then to
I
me
did
that
not
tells me
say
they
they
can't.
must be indoors. I said that they're moving unsightly trailers indoors.
It's not a practical difficulty,
Yes,
but
it's
it's
not
part
a
of
practical
the. It's
difficulty.
part of
So
the.
make sure, we need to make sure that's clear of how you want it to be worded, because I interpreted that as you're granting the variance. So the trailers are not stored outside and stored indoors. So the
Then I'll-
neighbor's not
then I'll-
unsightly looking
I'll-
at them.
I'll rescind that. I'll strike that.
And my just not part of the, I just maybe don't normally do that, but not part of my motion, but my logic there with all of this is, again, as a neighbor, I might not want the building there myself, frankly. I mean, if there's nothing there now and there's a home there now, I mean, I think I went by as well. It looks very nice, but I don't know that I'd like it. But if I also think about being a neighbor that doesn't have control over it, none of these people have control over a 2,500 square foot building, and something's going to be there. I'd rather it be farther off my property line. I'd rather it look nice. That's kind of my thought, right? It matches the pitch of the house, brick, fixtures, etc. So it's not going to make everybody happy, but it's better than what could be there, and something's going to go there. So that was kind of my logic. I just wanted to kind of throw that out.
I just have one more clarification. So we're just defining it as support that with the building, the trailers will have a location to not have the neighbors look at them. And then were you adding that language in there about the aesthetics matching the house?
Both of our comments, I don't want to overspeak.
I just want to make sure that if we
We'll
take
strike
them out,
about
then they're
moving
not
them-
required.
we'll just strike that about moving them indoors.
Okay.
Okay?
And mine was not to be added to the motion. It was.
Well, I just know that Mr. Bassinger made the comment that he was more supportive with requiring those, but if it's not in the motion.
That's not a practical difficulty.
No, but if it's.
Okay, yeah, then I'm fine putting it in.
Okay.
Then I'm fine, yes.
I just want to make sure that whatever we put, that.
I'm fine putting it in.
Clear that.
That's part of the logic behind it. The practical
Yes.
difficulty is the oddly shaped lot for me and the proximity to the septic.
And the practical difficulty, I understood. Yep. I just didn't know if, like, as a condition to approve it, you wanted to make sure that it was aesthetically of what they said.
Yes.
As a condition.
That it aligns with the house in terms of pitch, building materials, et cetera. Fine.
I think that protects their investment and protects.
Because otherwise,
behind them investment.
yes, Jody, because otherwise, if they decided now we have 18 feet and I want to build it out of white vertical siding with a green roof, that's not fair to these people either, right? Part of the reason that we're saying this is because they'll be able to build it in a way that is most aesthetically pleasing for that area.
It's a win-win.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily, but it's.
Mr. Gore, did you second that?
I did.
So we have a motion seconded, and now we have some time for discussion. Did the Millers look at, I'm not clear that you looked at a scissor truss type system where you could lower the roof.
I did look into that. It's just I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the expense, because when you just build a triangle truss, there's less webbing, less engineering required. I'm not building the trusses, I'm going to order them.
Mm-hmm.
When the truss company builds them, to go to a scissor truss requires a lot more members. I know they typically go to different, instead of just regular spruce pine fir, they go up to yellow pine, just because it's heavier, denser.
Mm-hmm.
So it all adds cost.
Okay, because
I'm going to have a lot of cost in a large building that.
my main barn at home has a scissor truss in it, so I can store taller things in the middle, and of course in the middle is where the overhead, or where the main entrance door, equipment entrance door is. So I can get away with taller things there that I can't move into either side. But you're saying it's costly enough to be prohibitive of
I mean, it goes
building
into
the
my
building?
consideration for sure.
I mean, if you weren't running a commercial business, you wouldn't need the height variance, would you?
What's that?
If you weren't running a commercial business out of your residence, you wouldn't need the height variance.
Sure, I've got a pontoon boat on a float-on trailer, so.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I've got a pontoon boat on a float-on trailer, and also a camper.
They require how much height?
The pontoon boat, it'd be over 8 foot on a trailer. You know, as far as, because I shrink wrap it every year, and, I use a 6 foot ladder and I still can't get above the seats on the side.
I mean, would you need the height variance that you're asking for
That trailer, yes.
Yes, with that one,
with the pontoon boat?
yes. A camper with an AC unit on it, that's gonna be 10 foot. I think most of them trailers are 8 foot, so throw a 12 or 14-inch AC on top of that.
So you're going to store the trailers and your RV in there?
I'm planning on storing as much stuff in there as I can. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't made it to my house that I've got stored in other places.
You bought a small property to store all that stuff. I
didn't buy it just to store this.
Well,
I wanted to
you
build a
had all that
house.
stuff to store.
And then
I'm just surprised.
It fell in line with the size of building we're allowed to have.
We have a motion and a second. Are we ready for voting?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bassinger?
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney?
No.
Mr. Potter?
No.
Motion carried. I'll have to go in and see Dennis tomorrow if you're going to start with your permit process.
Okay.
We don't have to wait for nothing.
So the next
No,
item
I'll
on
give the
our
minutes to Dennis, and then he'll know exactly what he needs to when you submit for the permit. Okay?
next item on our agenda is a variance request from Joshua and Crystal Beasley, Dean Road, for an accessory building located in the front yard. Would someone care to make a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion to open the public hearing, if they're still willing after all that to step up.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there is a summary of the request for the variance. Jody?
Yes, again, the applicants are Joshua and Crystal Beasley, 731 West Dean Road, 3.57 acres, R2B single family residential. The applicant is seeking to construct a 24 by 30 accessory building to be located in the front yard. The subject site consists of approximately 3.57 acres with 150 feet of frontage on Dean Road. The applicant's intent is to build an accessory building to the northeast of the dwelling. However, by ordinance, the proposed location is considered a front yard. Per section 419.03.4 accessory building table, accessory building shall not be erected in any minimum side yard setback nor in any front yard, thus requiring the variance to allow an accessory building to be constructed in the front yard. The applicant has indicated in his submitted letter the proposed accessory building would be utilized for storage of various equipment and tools. The applicant further stated the proposed accessory building will have no adverse effect on the neighboring properties, as there is an existing tree line buffer of arborvitaes to the homes to the north, as well as existing dense woods on the east side of the property. The applicant further stated, due to the existing septic and leach fields located on the east side of the dwelling, the McClanahan drain on the west side of the property, and the limited accessibility to the south of the dwelling, the proposed location is the best location for the accessory building. At this time, no letters or calls of objection have been received. However, the applicant has provided 7 letters of no objection, and should the variance request be granted, the variance is to allow a 24 by 30 accessory building to be built in the front yard. And I just kind of wanted to show on this sketch here, you can see the driveway goes back to the house. This is where the drainage ditch is and the easement for the drainage ditch for the McClanahan drain. And then these homes, the barn would be in the rear of those homes. And it's considered a front yard because it's still to the section line road.
Okay, thank you. Would are the applicants, are you the applicants? Would you care to approach the podium, state your name and address, and
Okay. Joshua Beasley, 731 West Dean Road.
Crystal Beasley, 731 West Dean Road.
Thank you, thank you. Do you have anything in addition to what Jody read?
Yeah, some of the, I went door to door. I knocked, again, I have an odd lot. I don't know if you guys have been there yet, but it's kind of in everybody's backyard. It's kind of an odd shape.
Pretty much surrounded by woods.
Yeah, so I knocked on the affecting houses that could potentially maybe see a piece of the structure, the new structure. And all of those letters they had approved. They said yes, by all means.
This might be a better visual. This is the house back here. You can see the driveway.
Right.
And then this is kind of the tree line buffer. You have your camper there now, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the visual of their camper, and then these are the homes that would be in line with the accessory building is looking to go pretty much where that camper is stored now.
That is correct. There's 3 houses in the front of my house, and there's probably 4 or 5 on the Mohawk Trail side of my house. I also knocked on their doors, and then also the subdivision that's right behind me.
It's that moonlight.
And we show them on here, the ones that you got the letters from.
Yes, okay, yep.
And we printed this, the home is not there at this time when this aerial was taken, but we wanted you to see the ditch line that runs where the easement is to the Drain Commission for access purposes.
I have nothing else.
Really, that has a control over potential location of the barn to, which is this, west side? West side and rear of the house.
Side, yeah.
Do you folks have city sewer and
We have city water, but we have a septic.
Okay, all righty.
That's on the east side of our lot. And that,
Oh, that's right. You
Right
have,
here.
that butts right up to the wood line.
Yeah.
hello. Okay. Let's see. There's nobody else in the audience, so would this be a good time to close the public hearing? Okay,
I'll make a motion, close it.
Support.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do any of the board members have questions or comments? Yes, Mike.
As far as the house off the road,
375 foot to the front of the garage.
kind of always struggle with these pieces of property like that when they
You
call
know,
front yard, you know, I mean.
here's kind of the backstory on this. We were looking for a piece of property in the Bedford Township. At the time, there was nothing available. And, you know, we waited about a couple years or so before we finally pulled the trigger on this piece of property. I remember pulling up the driveway, and as I pulled in, you know, a hawk swooped down. It was almost like the perfect. And here we are in everybody's backyard. You know, in the summertime, nobody can see me. Right now, you know, I can kind of see the houses, you know, all the leaves are gone. But, you know, we have means. We planted some more arborvitaes on the south side of our house. That's going to eventually block some of that. And, you know, we have trees along the driveway that we've planted. The idea was to try to be as secluded as possible, but still have some city amenities.
I think a lot of these, I mean, I hate to blanketly just say, well, it's an odd-shaped lot, but I mean, a lot of these just make sense that way, right? You can't, if I were to argue, right, I would say, what you'd probably like to do, right, is put it next to the house where the septic and leach is, and you can't because it's there.
Right.
And you likely can't fit it in that top north, what would that be? Is that north?
South, actually.
South, is it southwest? I'm all backwards. Southwest corner because of the setbacks and things, right? I mean, to me, it's fairly straightforward. It's like, and everything's got to stand on its own merit, but it makes, I mean, there's your practical difficulty. You got your septic and leach and
The wooded area.
Drainage ditch.
Mm-hmm.
and it's much smaller than the, I don't know with this one. I mean, you can go huge, I guess. It's a fairly small building considering what could be put on there.
Will they have a concrete floor?
No, we plan on using the, I don't know what it's called. It's a pebble gravel, like a small fine gravel that basically hardens when it gets wet. It's what we have going up to our driveway, up to our garage.
Like a county burn mix or something?
Yeah, it's county mixed. Thank you. Yeah.
How did the cost compare to stick building it?
Well, this is U.S. buildings, stick building. I was thinking about building it myself. I travel for work. I'm never home. So that wasn't going to work. And then just the cost efficiency, to me, it's basically a metal carport.
Yeah.
And we're utilizing it for, you know, I have a small Kubota, four-wheeler, mowing tractor, just some
cart.
miscellaneous, golf cart, miscellaneous things like that. That's right now in the,
So I
it's all
don't
in the
have a
garage.
problem with what you want to use it for
Right.
and where you want to build it. It's just carports. And going through your neighborhood, I didn't see any other carports. They just seem like they look cheaper than a stick-built building that's kind of designed to kind of match the house.
I agree. Who's going to see it? You know, I'm kind of looking at it.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, you know,
That's probably the only reason why I'd probably vote for this.
yeah. I've done a lot of thinking about it.
It is going to
I've-
be gray. I mean, our house
Yeah, we're
is
matching,
gray.
we are going to match the color
It's
of our
just
house.
gonna be metal.
The gray and the black. But, you know, it's going to be a metal.
I mean,
I don't ever see
one of our
neighbors. They're just trees.
questions we have to ask for as a litmus test is the request consistent with surrounding area? And it is, and I don't know if anybody can make an argument that it is.
The piece of property isn't consistent with the surrounding area, but I think it's tucked back there. You know, I struggle with what you're calling the front yard. You know, when something's, you know, several hundred feet off the road, it's not a front yard anymore, you know? I mean, it's really, you're building a barn behind the neighbor's barn.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah.
Hey, you know, we've seen several of these type of,
Well, I think the spirit of the restriction, right, is so that somebody doesn't put a carport in their front yard.
Right.
In their front yard, in front of their house, in their neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, that's probably the spirit of it. I see what you're saying.
And I will provide some clarification. If the house was built closer, as long as it would be behind the front building line, that's what is considered, whether it's a section line road. So unfortunately, our ordinance says the main building, so it has to be behind the main building, more so is what's considered front yard. I agree, as it gets farther back, it's not really a front yard any longer, but it is in front of the main building.
I think we should take that ordinance book and throw it away and start all over again. Did I just say that in public?
No, I didn't hear anything. Any other questions from anybody? The applicant? Are we ready to make a motion on whether or not to approve this variance request?
We talked about the oddly shaped lot with the septic and leach
In the drainage ditch.
and the drainage.
So, Jody, if you'll go back up the top, I'll take a crack at it.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Go ahead and make the motion that we approve the variance for Joshua and Crystal Beasley, 731 West Dean Road, Temperance, Michigan. Property number 5802-026-032-10 to construct a 24 by 30 accessory building in the front yard. Practical difficulty would be the location of the wooded area, the septic leach field, and the drainage ditch.
I second as stated.
Okay, is motion support? Yes? Okay, any more discussion? Anybody?
I'm sorry, did Mr. Wilson or Bassinger pass?
I did.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
Ready
then,
for a roll call?
ready for roll call.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bassinger? Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Potter?
Aye.
Motion carried. Just go in and see Dennis tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is public comment, although we're quickly losing our last member of public. You don't have to.
Better to do now.
No, we do, though. All right. Board staff comments, starting with Jody.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Wilson again for serving. Thank you, we appreciate it, always having a full board. I heard that, even though you didn't have your mic on.
Oh, I did.
And second of all, the deadline for the next meeting is until the 13th, so I will send out an email if we get any applications by noon on the 13th. Otherwise, have a good evening.
Thank you. Next.
I just want to say thank you. Just want to say thank you guys for having me tonight. This was my first night with you, and I look forward to potentially working with you again.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
Nothing.
I have one question concerning the height of buildings. And how is it defined in our ordinances? Is it the actual tip of the
No.
peak, or is it defined as this
11.
midway between the,
It's the midpoint between the top of your wall and your peak.
okay, and it's actually defined that way in the ordinance somewhere?
Yes, calculations, yes.
So that's going to vary depending on the pitch of the
Okay,
roof.
because it just seems like that's a confusing issue with the public.
So the first
You know,
one,
when I think of the top of a building, I think, where the weather vane is, I mean,
That's not
the
calculated
peak,
in it.
the top.
It's the mean height, it's a formula, and it's included when they get the accessory building table.
Okay, all righty. And that's typical, as far as your experience, typical for other communities?
Yes.
Okay. That's just weird. Oh, they do? I knew that. I did. But anyway, besides that, thank you, everyone. Good meeting.
nothing for me.
Nothing for me.
Same, thank you.
Next item is adjournment. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, it's already approved. Thank you. Good night, everyone.